and I think this is a good time to take the opportunity to present to you your round 11 rapid recap, Fiona. And I think there's really no question which game we would like to choose for the rapid recap. It is the absolutely incredible display in the game Van Foreest against Giri, but I won't reveal who put this display together for those just watching for the first time.
Indeed.
It started off innocuously, right?
Yes.
But it got crazy quickly.
Very soon, as early as move 4, A3 here, Danny, and you're telling us this is quite a rare guess at the highest level, but a move that comes with a lot of poison.
It does. This is called the same-ish variation. It forces the trade on c3. And the point is that, yes, white has damaged his queenside pawn structure, but in return, white occupies a massive center with pawns f3 and e4, with Anish going for sort of the traditional way of playing against this variation. He goes after this weak pawn on c4 with everything that he's got, while Jorden, he tries his best to defend that pawn and simultaneously keep expanding in the center.
So that's what we see happening over the next couple of moves. Queen e2 overprotecting the pawn on c4. And after Anish's next move, d6, here comes Jorden taking some ground with f4.
Yeah, this is a very nice multi-purpose move. First of all, he expands in the center. But second of all, and most importantly, and this is just exquisite, knight f3. And just in time, he brings the knight back to d2, defending the c4 pawn one more time. And Anish just runs out of pieces that he can use to attack that pawn. The knight on f6 has no way of approaching the pawn. And this is where things started going south for Anish. He starts by playing e5. He strikes in the center. Jorden responds with castle, just keeping the tension. And Fiona, this was quite possibly the most important moment of the game.
Absolutely, a big critical moment. We were maybe expecting queenside castles, which doesn't look too appealing at first sight, but the problem with the alternative of castling kingside, which is what Anish ended up doing, it runs into a big attack on the kingside.
It does. Jorden starts by opening up the f-file, and he had an immediate exchange sack on f6, but he decided to throw in the move rook b1. And it seems in retrospect that Anish should have taken this opportunity and gotten his knight off of f6, although after rook f3, followed by a rook lift, the position remains incredibly dangerous for black. But Giri decides to strike in the center.
Dania, maybe we can just show that one line. If Anish had sacrificed immediately on f6 with this incredible queen f2 variation.
Yeah, there was an unbelievable line pointed out by some people. Queen f2 looks like a blunder, right? Allows queen d1 check. Okay, you have to cover with the bishop. No, you don't. You can play knight f1. Looks like another blunder. But after queen h4, incredibly, it turns out that white has unstoppable threats against black's king. In particular, the threat is to play bishop h6, follow up with queen takes f6. There's going to be mate, and the apocalypse is going to happen on the dark squares. Bishop takes e4. And just in time, white links up the rook and the knight with mate to follow. But can you really blame Jorden for not seeing this particular variation?
Definitely
I don't
not.
think so.
Especially not as after he was given the chance one more time after Anish's move c5. Now he decided, okay, this time it is time. And he went for the exchange sack on f6.
Indeed, and queen f2 was still possible, but Jorden going for queen f3, also an incredibly powerful attacking move, hitting Anish where it hurts, forcing the queen back. Now Jorden locks up the position and immediately starts working on activating all of his minor pieces, bringing all hands on deck. We were expecting him to swing the knight around to h5, but he decided to keep his knight on e3, and I was particularly impressed with this idea, using the bishop, Fiona, as the primary attacker of this incredibly weak pawn on f6.
Indeed, and that bishop just maneuvered itself over to h4. There was nothing black could do to stop it. And here is maybe the moment where the game was decided.
Yeah, I mean, Anish had to bite the bullet, bring the knight back, and just hunker down in total passive defense. Is this fun? Absolutely not. And white has multiple ways he can try to improve his position. In particular, there's this idea of bringing the bishop back to e2 and then ultimately swinging it to h5. But black can try to play queen d8 here, maybe bring the knight over to d6. He's still in the game, but Anish kind of reacted in a panicked way. He went rook h6, which ends up being an incredibly costly waste of tempo. Why? Because Jorden goes queen f2, a move that he wants to play anyway, because it paves the way for the bishop to swing either to g4, which would decisively weaken the f5 square, or in some circumstances, if the rook returns to g6, the bishop can swing to h5. And essentially, Fiona, that's exactly what happened.
Indeed, we saw first the rook come into the game. Black was forced to play king g7 to defend f6, and here comes that bishop. And now we see that Anish has nothing better than to go back to g6 anyway.
Yeah, and here bishop h5 was possible, maybe even the most accurate, but Jorden choosing an alternate way to prepare bishop g4. Out of desperation, Anish plays bishop takes h3, but the very prosaic reputation, bishop h5, and Black is totally busted here. If rook h6, then among other things, White can just take on h3, take on f6, and now get this king out of the way, and there's going to be just decisive stuff happening on the g file. Anish decided to give away this rook on g6, and then the pawn falls. And Fiona, we were just very impressed with the way that Jorden took this all the way to the full point.
It was, I mean, very clever. I mean, possibly a perfect performance by Jorden, who brought the queen in now, queen h4, and the attack just continues. Where you were also pointing out, Jorden doesn't need to find an immediate mate because Black is just tied down. There is nothing he can do.
Indeed, and you can see Jorden keeps tightening the screws, and now he hits the e5 pawn. It cannot be defended. He takes that pawn off the board. Anish tries to get his knight back into the game, but to no avail. The queen drops back to f4, paving the way for these two connected passers to march all the way forward, e5, d6, and now he's got the d5 square for his knight. And in this position, they're approaching time control. Jorden not taking his foot off the gas pedal. Here comes the knight, and Anish trying to use his queen as some sort of a decoy. And after knight e7, check king h8, the final sort of sparkling idea to cap off the game, Fiona. It was absolutely brilliant final move of the game.
Indeed, and that move is rook h3, a rook sacrifice at first sight. But the problem is, if Black were to capture, now we see that that was actually a decoy, and d7 appears on the board with unsolvable back rank issues.
Indeed, if queen takes d7, queen b8 check wins the queen with checkmate to follow. And perhaps the most beautiful line, if rook f8 happens now, Black takes his eyes off of the g7 square, and White smashes down the pawn on g6 with queen h6, queen g7 mate. And if the king moves to g8, the simplest win is just to take the rook and then to give that aforementioned check on b8, followed by making a second queen. Anish, having calculated these lines, decided not to continue the game and resigned on move 42. Jorden van Foreest, not only the winner of last year's Tata Steel, showing that that was far from a fluke. He beat Anish Giri, I think, in the Armageddon, and he defeats him again this tournament. Jorden van Foreest, what an impressive young man. What an impressive game.
A stunning game.
Win against Anish.
What probably one of his best wins. This was your rapid recap of the day. Hope you enjoyed that game. And Dania, it's been a strange day. But here are the results of this round 11.
Yeah, as we can see, we've got 3 decisive results. Could have been 4 due to Shanklin, and in a quick draw, as did Mamedyarov Karyakin. And Carlsen, he's going to be kicking himself. He had some chances against Vidit, but ultimately the Indian player put together a wonderful resistance, pulling out the draw. Fabiano with a great game against Prague. Report, of course, winning by default. Sad news, as Dubov has to drop out of the tournament due to COVID. And Jorden, of course, as we just saw, defeating Anish Giri. Let's have a look at the standings.
So for the standings, what this means is Magnus Carlsen, he is half a point clear at the top, but remember, he was scheduled to play Dubov at during the last round, which is a point he's going to get by walkover. So as long as he ends tomorrow's day with that same half a point lead, the tournament will be decided. But report, he is still in pursuit, and now let's look at the all-important pairings. The tournament victory will be decided between these two, but Magnus, he has one final test, as he has the black pieces against none other than Fabiano Caruana tomorrow.
Indeed, that's a very difficult final boss, and Fabi will do everything he can to finish the tournament in style. And of course, we see some other really cool matchups.
And Rapport, that will be the other huge game, of course. He will try to go for the full point, that's for certain, with the black pieces against Andrei Yasipenko. We've seen him play some very enterprising chess this tournament, as always. And I expect more of the same tomorrow. Elsewhere, what do we have? Well, first, quick look at the schedule. So 2 rounds to go. Tomorrow's round will start at the usual time of 2 p.m. Central European time. That's 5 a.m. Pacific. And the last round, though, so first reminder, the last round will start 2 hours early at noon Central European time. That's 3 a.m. Pacific. Quite an early start on the West Coast there, Daniel.
Absolutely. And it's 8 Eastern for me, and you certainly do not want to miss it. These are the all-important last 2 rounds of the tournament, and what a round it was today. This has not disappointed. We've had so much action, so much cool stuff. Today was a relatively quicker day. Tomorrow is going to be another grind, and it'll be an amazing start to the weekend. But Fiona, this was once again so much fun. These hours always fly by.
Absolutely, and it is the final weekend, last 2 rounds. Don't miss the round tomorrow, because it could be that the tournament is decided then. I know we're still waiting. We're not going to stick around. If we haven't raided yet, we will end the day. If Magnus comes in soon, then we'll jump there. For now, we are going to call it a day, because we don't know, is he coming or not. Keep an eye out on the YouTube channel of Tata Steel Chess. If we don't play an interview here, but Magnus gives one, you can find it there. Danya, I'm losing my footing.
Yeah, we'll take some rest, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Fiona, always a pleasure, and thank you to Big for another excellent
Pleasure
broadcast.
is mine, Danya.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Have a good one.